Okay, so this is the closing session to the stage 1 hearing. So the purpose of this session is to give some indication of the next steps in the process and to deal with any procedural questions the council may have. So none of what we say should be taken as prejudging the contents of the final report, which will take into account all relevant matters and representations. So bearing in mind the purposes of this session, can we first refresh on outstanding housekeeping matters for today, please? Yeah.
Okay, I've got 6 points. So first is the council to produce a topic paper as agreed in the Statement of Common Ground with Historic England, document 0D13K, consolidating the heritage aspects within the examination evidence base. And then the council, next one is the council to consider language and terminology such as full account related to the proposed mod in the same Statement of Common Ground with Historic England, OD13K. Then the council, next one is the council to reflect on the inclusion of references to the LTEC master plan within the allocation WI3. Next one is the council to add the London Borough of Merton 2018 Wimbledon Park master plan to the examination library. The fifth one is the council to consider including any MOL boundary changes on the site allocation map for WI3. And the last one I have is the council to reflect on temporary or permanent structures associated with LTEC's use and activities.
I think just to add on a couple of things, Mr. Van der Rest says, and just that structures was also a little bit about activity as well, I think, in terms of being relevant to that consideration. It's not just about the temporary and permanent structures, but I think it was a little bit more about the seasonality of it. Still slightly unclear for me on a couple of those points. But,
yeah, and that, I think that discussion we had about not inappropriate development in terms of the element of the site that was going to remain on the mall. So it was reflecting on that and what, giving some thought to in principle what sorts of activity might be picked up and whether the policy is effective in that regard. And the only other one I've picked up is what we spoke about this morning, where we said, and it's related to that point about whether the mall boundary changes are clearly articulated in the site allocation. It's whether the site allocation is, it's for you to consider whether site allocation is nuanced in the context of some of, you know, there's a portion of the sites in the mall, and then there's the, you know, the existing championship site, I'll call it that for ease of reference. Just following up really on Dr. Dawson's point and others on chalk and cheese. So is the policy, does the policy give sufficient guidance in terms of those different characters of land that are captured by the wider allocation? So just to give some thought to that, if you please, in terms of perhaps looking at modifications. Inspector Aston, do you have anything?
Just a very, very minor, but I thought was a good point. And it was made, I think, by Mr. Coombe. He referred to the maps being overlaid rather than side by side, and I think that would assist with people reading the plan. So if the council could consider that, please.
Yes, we can. We did try the overlay, but I can't remember it's this site or other sites. It just gets quite hard to see, but we will do overlay as well, and then people can have a choice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's all our actions that we've picked up. So just to move the closing session on a bit further. So following the closure of the stage 1 hearings, we'll be reflecting on the evidence received thus far and the discussions held over the previous 2 weeks to inform our approach to the next phase of the examination and the stage 2 hearings due to take place in October. So for our part, we will consider whether any soundness or legal compliance issues relating to matters discussed so far could be resolved by main modifications to the plan, or whether additional work might be necessary in order to justify an approach. So if we come to that view, we'd intend to communicate these issues in a timely way in a post-hearings letter. And any such letter will be with you before the end of July and will be publicly available and published on the website in the normal way. So the ball would then be in the council's court in terms of how it might wish to take forward any recommendations that we might make. We also intend to publish matters, issues and questions and related documents relating to the stage 2 hearings in a timely fashion to ensure that the council and other participants have an adequate opportunity to respond to these. So are there any procedural questions you have at this point regarding the post-hearing stage?
Just one, we have the list of actions that at the end of each day we've wrapped up as we have done now. It's our intention to get on with these as swiftly as possible. Are these the type of actions that would come to us in your letter late July, or are the actions in late July in addition to?
Yeah, anything we've covered thus far, we wouldn't be covering again unless it's a point of clarification on the actions. But yeah, anything covered in hearings, we wouldn't be writing a post-hearings letter specifically to cover those. But it'd help with our reflections if the sort of final draft of the actions could be with us by next week, so we can reflect on that when we look to what we're going to progress with.
Yes, that's absolutely fine, and that would help us as well.
Okay, so before we close the sessions, we would like to invite the council to make any closing remarks you might have at this stage.
No remarks, apart from to say thank you for this so far, and we will see you again in October.
Hopefully with no train strikes.
Okay, so our closing remarks then. So finally, we would like to thank Carmel Edwards for the efficient and effective work she has done and continues to do as our programme officer for this examination. And we would also like to thank the council for their timely responses to our various requests for accommodating these sessions, both in person and virtually, which has worked really well, particularly with one of us being in the room and one remote, and for your positive, proactive and solution-orientated approach to the discussions. And we'd also like to thank all representatives who participated, either through the production of hearing statements or in discussions themselves, for the positive, proactive and solution-orientated approach to the examination. So the stage 1 hearing sessions are now closed, then we'll resume in October. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.